figure out if it actually went live. Also, we do have my brother and mother watching because, of course, they're going to do that. Sorry, we're just going to have to wait.
I'm hearing some feedback.
I think it's from Amanda, but I can just... Okay, we're live. Hello, everyone. I'm going to mute you, Amanda. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Survivor Maryland Major Conflict Episode 10 live show. I'm your host, Anders, back again. Post-election, aren't we all excited? I've got some lovely guests here. Joining me, as always, except for last week for some reason, Erin from Survivor Michigan.
I'm back, everyone. Election is over, so...
All right, enough from you. And more importantly, we have from Survivor Michigan, Erin Sickery's mother, Shelley.
Hello.
Shelley, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I'm also very glad that the election is over and the good guys won.
We also have from Survivor Maryland, New Beginnings, Swale.
Hello, thanks for having me. I'm back gracing the Survivor Maryland world, doing this live recap.
We love having Swale. You can also see him on the UVA live show. And finally, we have our special guest, unfortunately taken out in this episode, Amanda. Amanda, how are you?
I'm doing well. It was interesting to have watched all of it back, with it being so long ago. But yeah, it's like strange to think about, but knew this was coming. So yeah.
You did know it was coming. You were there when it happened.
I did exist at that point in time. Yes.
Well,
I'm sure
up too, right at the tribal before votes were even read.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's been in many dreams, many stress dreams. So Amanda, it's been 4 years since this happened. How are you? What's happened? What's changed?
Yeah. So a lot has changed. It's interesting to look at as watching it back, I was like, wow, the things that were happening in my personal life, just are very different than what's happening in my life now, for the better. And so I graduated from University of Maryland, and actually still live in College Park, and I'm working with college students at Maryland still. So still close to what now is home, but no more school, which we love. So
get ready to see Amanda as as a now person working at UMD playing the game again. She's decided, I'm coming back, but this time as an adult, not in college. So Amanda, it has been 4 years. Watching back this game, how did you, just reflecting on it, how did you feel about this game? What would you say were the very strong points and the weak points of it?
I think definitely I think the strong points were that I showed up and I wanted to be there, and I was an engineering major. I had a lot going on. I was a super busy student and was involved in a lot of other things, but I think I really showed up and I put 110% into everything, and yeah, okay, physical challenges not my thing, will never be my thing, but I was there and I was wholeheartedly invested and gave the game a lot of thought and effort, and I think in some ways my self-perception was, I think, okay, and then obviously where it wasn't okay was why I ended up getting voted out, but I think definitely a lot of my weaker points did end up being related to me not being able to trust women, and I think it's really cool to go back and watch that now and look at where I am now in my life and how much I've grown in that area of my life, and how much it's just been, it's been really amazing to have that as a point to watch back and say okay, I have come a long way in this area, and actually playing on the show and reflecting on how I did was part of that growth and kind of took me along that journey. So
yeah, fully. I do want to ask a couple questions about specific moments in your game and sort of get a better idea. There's only so much footage and knowledge I have about your perspective, so I'd love to get a little bit of a perspective on it. So going all the way back to the Teresa vote, we saw Teresa was like, Amanda and I, we're a tight duo. And you were like, what? Why? So I guess my two questions are, also we have Delarum here, standing your growth. But with the Teresa, number one, why didn't you want to work with Teresa? And number two, why did you tell her that you were like, yeah, I did vote for Dane? I know it's really easy to remember. It was only 4 years ago.
Yeah, I have no idea why I told her I did vote for Dane. No recollection of why that happened. In terms of like, I think I just like knew how everyone else perceived her, and I think I'm someone who like, I think like I try to like listen to other people well. So like in that kind of like friendship and like relationship with her, I just like, she had a lot to say and I just listened, and I think didn't really like say much in response, and she took that as like, great, like we're good, and I kind of like let it happen, but never really like, I think especially once I got to know her more, and like especially after that bomb challenge, I remember being really frustrated with her after that challenge. Kind of was like, okay, I don't think that long term this is gonna like work very well for anyone on the tribe, really. She in a lot of ways was very different from most of the rest of us. She was older, she just had different priorities. A lot of us were engineering majors and she was in kinesiology, and it kind of just was different in a lot of ways.
Speaking of different in a lot of ways, the next week Eric came to you and was like, Amanda, you have got to vote out Doug. Like, it's going to be you, me, Dane, who hates you, Delarum. We're going to work together. And then you were like, uh-huh. Anyways, Doug, Tim, here's what's happening. Reflecting on that, do you feel like you made the right move in that moment? Do you wish you had done something different?
I definitely regret like immediately going to Doug and just telling him everything, because yeah, why did everyone tell Doug everything all the time? Don't know. But I don't think that I would have worked with him. I don't think there was ever any chance of that. I don't think I trusted him. I think like I had a decent read on the fact that like he most of the time was lying. There was a lot of talk of like advantage and stuff, and he like wasn't like forthcoming with what his advantage was, and like I had been talking to Liam and like had some idea. So I don't think there was ever a chance of me actually like being on board with that plan. And yeah, part of it was like at that point Dane for some reason just was like, nope.
It's because he thought you voted for him at the first tribal.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's move to, we don't really need to talk about choosing to vote out Eric, or you technically voted out Abby, but let's go to the swap, which is a very contentious moment. So obviously, there's a lot that goes into that swap. It wasn't just girls versus boys. It was you swap on with Tim, who you said didn't like him in the beginning. he talked to you the most. You just didn't like him. I'm choking. I'm sorry, I'm choking up. It's so hard to think about this. So, anyways, so you didn't like Tim, but now you basically you've been working with him. So here he is. And then you have Dane, who's throwing out your name at the beginning. Santi, who you have no relationship with. And then Jasmine, Angie, and Morgan, who are like, work with us and Liam. Vote out Dane. So I guess a couple questions here are, number one, how difficult of a decision was it for you? Number two, why didn't you just tell the girls to vote for Santi if you were threatened by him? And number three, when you found out that Tim knew Santi more than you intended or more than you expected, how did that actually shake your relationship with Tim?
So, okay, there's a lot there. Let's see. I'm going to start with why I didn't tell the girls Santi. I did actually. So there's this moment where I'm sitting with Tim and Santi in that room, and I'm like on my phone texting. I texted them and I was like, would like kind of put out a feeler of like, what if Santi? But then when I ultimately later in the like like right before I texted them again and said, never mind, Dane, like, I don't know, I think it's too soon. So I really, in my head, I was thinking like the people who I actually wanted, like, if the decision I was making was between Santi and Jasmine. And it's interesting because I had no read on the fact that Liam and Jasmine were close. Liam, the reason I had so much trouble trusting Liam was because he was not open about who he was working with at all. And I think would have made the difference for me. I think the other thing that, like Jasmine said before, if she would have come to me sooner, rather than like the day of, I think that also would have made a difference, because I had heard that she'd gone to everyone else. So I felt like kind of like a last resort. So I think, but I mean, I think there is an underlying thing of like, I think about this a lot. Would it have been different if it were 2 guys and a girl on this other side pitching, like, go with them and like ditch your old people? Would I have done it? I maybe would have been more likely to. And that just like speaks to like where I was at in terms of trusting women at that point in my life. And I think I probably would have if it would have been like more guys. And that, yeah. And it's kind of a bummer because like, I don't know if either path would have really gotten me all the way to the end, but I think I definitely could have worked with them for a few more votes. And it's hard to imagine like how, like, if we had voted out Santi, how much that would have like changed the game, because so many people like had close relationships with him. So it's hard to predict like what would have happened, but I think that definitely would have been a better path. But I just didn't see how they had the numbers post merge. And I saw that like Tim and Santi did, but I also didn't have a good read on how much Tim, Santi, and Doug were wanting to keep Sadie and Abby and Delarum around. So
yeah, I mean, it's definitely a rock and a hard place in terms of that decision. Like, obviously, if you had chosen to get rid of Santi, you would have had the girls, Liam, Mike, and Abby. But then again, like, you notice how that's all Chikasha.
yeah,
I think it would have been hard for you as well to get into that group because you are not in that group. And I think additionally, when you're with Pascala, it really is like, does Doug choose Sadie over me is where it comes down to. And unfortunately, with Santi on his side, it's like Doug has the opportunity to remove an ally and not be too hurt by it. So I don't think there was a good decision. I just think that like it's a hard decision and you made what you made. And I think getting rid of Jasmine is an incredibly good move for pretty much everyone except for Liam, Mike, Morgan, and Angie. Because truly,
no,
Jasmine,
I mean, I think she was a super strong player, and I definitely saw that. And that's like a lot of why I kind of like switched it around. I also think that like, this decision, there wasn't a good decision because of like prior things that happened. I needed to be like working on my relationship with a lot of the other women on the Pascala tribe much sooner. And I wouldn't have necessarily been so screwed over by the decision that I made if that were the case. So
Can I jump in real quick? Because I did have something to ask on this as well. And it's like, it's just the piece that I think like, were you starting to see the splinter already kind of between yourself and Doug and Tim and like that kind of thing that came to a head in this episode where they did kind of were like, oh, Amanda's like bottom of the totem pole, like we're going to get her out now. Like, were you kind of seeing that splinter between yourself and the people that you thought you were working with and like just felt that was still the safer route rather than taking the opportunity to kind of flip to the other side? Or was it that you just kind of weren't seeing that splinter yet and it took those couple weeks further for that to manifest?
I think I did not have a good read on how close Doug and Sadie were, and even how close Delarum and Doug were to some extent. I don't think a ton of that is shown on camera, but like in conversations later, kind of learning that. And I kind of really glossed over the fact that like Tim and Santi were really close. And I think I didn't give that enough thought, but I don't think that I felt like Tim and I were like that was kind of the peak of like Tim and I being like close allies. And so it was hard to see that like there was a splinter. And I think I definitely did trust Doug like much more than I should have for how much we talked. And I think
That's
this
the name
just
of the
comes down
season,
to, like,
baby.
Yes.
like this just comes down to like there was a lot that I wasn't seeing. And looking back, it's like I should have put in just a lot more effort in like how much, just the amount of time that I spent like talking to people and reaching out to people. Like it was not enough. So, but I kind of, to sum that up, I don't really think I saw the splinter, and I definitely didn't see how many other people Doug was very close to. So.
I see. I have a question, Amanda. I'm going to ask you the hard question. I know this one been brought up all season, and my question is, do you feel like you find a strategic advantage working with guys, and at least back then, or, what was, the impression that you had with women, or in comparison to maybe working with guys, and how did that affect your game?
I mean, I think this was just like kind of like I said earlier, just a very like personally, like mentally where I was at that point. Relationships with girls in high school for me didn't go well or end well. And so I think there was a lot of like hurt that like I carried into this game unknowingly. And even when I said like, apparently I don't like work with women well, like that was me starting to realize that, but not knowing how to kind of like do a 180 and walk away from like those patterns. Cause I think just naturally I gravitate towards guys. And even if you look at like my personal friendships in my life at that point, lived with a few women, like, but spent most of my time with this group of guys. And so like, it's not shocking that I behaved the same way, like in the game. And I think it's been interesting over the last 4 years how that's like shifted a great deal. So
I think one of the things that I noticed was that it wasn't even just necessarily the mistrust of women, but the mistrust in general. Like you didn't even have, Liam had 100% trust in you, and like he was totally, you were a great ally for him, and you're like, I don't trust Liam. And like Andrew said at the beginning, you were like, I don't like Tim, even though he talks to me the most. And
well, that's a very valid feeling to have. All right.
Look, I don't know Tim, but actually one of my questions was, what made you like Tim after a while? But it just seemed like there was a lot of, it took a lot of bridge building for you. Like you had to really spend some time with people for you to feel like you could trust them enough. And it looked like that there were so many times where somebody would reach out to you, but yet you kind of closed that door.
Yeah, I think I've watched enough of like Real Survivor and other stuff where I'm like, I think I was so paranoid about not being paranoid enough. Like I was so, I think like I just didn't want to get blindsided, and I'm happy I didn't. I much rather would have like, it was sucked for that whole like round knowing I was going home, but I think I still would have much rather that been the case than been blindsided. I think I was so paranoid about not being paranoid enough that I kept my guard up a lot and didn't let myself trust people. And Liam, I think like, part of it was I knew Liam, and in my head, I kind of was like, well, he's just leveraging the fact that he knows me, but that doesn't actually mean he'll want to work with me in this game. And it's not like Liam and I, we knew each other from like living on the same floor, but like we weren't like close friends by any means. It was not like a Tim and Santi and Doug situation. So I didn't know how much to trust like that being carried into it. Yeah, I think I just wanted to err on the side of being paranoid rather than being trusting, but almost to a fault.
Fully. So we get to the merge. You are still with your group. I will say this. You turned Dane from someone who hated you because he thought you voted for him to someone who's like, yes, me and Amanda, we are close. We are allies. So that is to your credit. You, Tim, and Dane, we're a tight group. You were close enough. You did constantly reference, these are the votes I know I have. So you get to the merge, and it seems like the easy vote is Morgan. Were you the first one to throw that out, or was that Doug? Who was the first one to be like, so Morgan?
I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure even before like Angie won immunity, I kind of was like in my head, I'm like, well, I burned that bridge, so like in my best interest, like either Angie or Morgan. And in hindsight, kind of wish I would have went the other way with it, because like I had not a great read on like how connected Angie was starting to be. But I think, yeah, I didn't really realize until the tribal where she said all that stuff about me that, okay, this maybe wasn't the best move. Like,
Yeah, she went after you. She said,
Oh, yeah.
Amanda's the only one playing this game. You got to get her out. People don't want to get her out because of Tim.
Did you feel like a little honored though? Like you were like, yeah, you're right.
No, and you see me in that next confessional, like after being like apparently I'm the only one playing the game. And I think I was a little frustrated by that, because I was like, this is what I've been saying about Sadie. Like it felt like, okay, well, people are listening to Morgan, but I feel like I've been saying this about Sadie. What is the disconnect here? Like, I don't have a Delarum and an Abby who are very loyal to me. Like, and yeah, to my own fault. But like, yeah, I was kind of like, okay, but what about Sadie? Like, so yeah, I did feel a little bit honored though. Yeah.
It's funny too, a little bit, like how basically Morgan's entire plea and her strategy in that tribal was mimicked by you, but on Sadie. You were like, if everyone who said they want to vote with me did, they'd be in the majority. Also, Sadie, huge threat. She's got these two people. Vote this person. I mean, look, I think it's the best strategy to do, especially when it's like, idols aren't here, all right? They're all with Doug, and they're not going to be played, okay? You don't have to worry about them. After Morgan is voted out, are you thinking like, oh crap, it's me, like I am the easy vote, or are you thinking this is just a hurdle that I have to get through?
I think I definitely knew that it was, in a sense, between me and Sadie or me and either Delarum or Abby. I thought there was some hope of me going after one of the three of them. I think the nature of the challenge didn't help, because it felt like I was like, okay, this is confirming what I've been seeing for a while, but it doesn't seem like anyone, like it seemed like people saw like the closest of Doug and Sadie, but didn't actually see like Abby and Sadie and Delarum and Sadie. So I think like Superlatives being where it was, like in the like that it happened that round didn't help, because I mean, yeah, Sadie ended up winning, and I think, I mean, that just crushed any momentum that I would have had. Because going after Delarum isn't as much of like a,
yeah, like, who's voting for Delarum? Who's like, we gotta get her out?
Yeah.
Speaking of that challenge, and I guess the tanking of your game, Josh. So you go to Josh, and you literally are like, Josh, I think we could work together. I think we're in the same level. And he's like, I'm glad you said that she wants to get rid of Sadie. I was going to say she was anyways, but she did say it. And you then go to him again the next round. Obviously, you didn't know, saying, maybe we go for someone big like Santi. And then he goes to Sadie. It's like, Amanda. What was your read on Josh before the merge? And then, like, watching this back, do you wish you would sort of just ice Josh out? What is the play, knowing like, oh, maybe Josh is going to throw me under the bus?
Yeah, I think I don't remember my thought process of like thinking I could trust Josh. Like, I don't remember why I thought that really. I think the thing that, like, I must have come out of that conversation at that Halloween party feeling good about it, but I think that was just because I was drinking. And that really was like, I honestly, I had fun at that party, but honestly, I wish I wouldn't have gone, because I think like that conversation happening at all was bad, because I came out of it feeling good, and Josh came out of it like was never going to say anything positive. So yeah. And I also just didn't have a read on the fact that him and Angie were close really until like right before. I think maybe like Doug kind of gave that away to me, and like thinking like, okay, well, what at the end where he's like pulling the numbers and like he's like texting me being like trying to figure things out and like asking me who I thought I had and all that stuff. But yeah, I didn't like I also just I had no idea that Sadie and Josh were close. So because I think I wasn't really paying much attention to what was happening on the other merged tribe at all. And I should have been. I should have been able to figure that out, but just missed that.
Yeah, it's hard, especially when it's like you don't have a roommate on the other side who's like, here's what's happening. Oh, well, we don't have to worry about them. I'm sure they're not doing anything. That was my favorite question all season long of, so the roommates. And everyone's like, nah. I know. We're all shaking our heads. And
you mean Abby and Delarum, right?
Yes, of course. The strongest pair in the game. I don't know if you were there when Liam was on the show, but he's like, yeah, if I knew we couldn't have done that to Josh, I would have gone for the real threats, the roommates, Abby and Delarum. And I was like, why? Why? Anyways, not important. But this challenge, we see that Doug, Sadie, Santi, and Delarum are the top 4, and they're like giggling and like, hi, you can take my name. Looking back, watching this, is that a red flag? Is that saying, oh, I cannot work with any of them? Or will they turn against each other? Or did that give you some sort of glimmer?
I think it just kind of confirmed what I already knew. I think it put me in a tough spot because I was like, I do trust Tim. Like at that point, I was like, I trust that Tim is going to like do what he can to keep me in this game. But then I knew I couldn't trust Sadie, and I didn't really know what to do with Doug or Santi. And I think I had more mistrust for Santi when I really should have had like as much or more mistrust for Doug. So I think I think I kind of in my head weirdly thought like, which makes no sense. I thought like that Doug, and it was like Doug and Santi were close, and then like for some reason Santi and Sadie were close, which doesn't make any sense. They were never even on the same tribe. So
we see going up to the vote, it seems like Doug, Santi, and Tim are all potentially interested in doing some sort of flip plan with you and most likely Dane. It doesn't come together ultimately, but how privy were you to this conversation, and what you think would have been the final piece to have made this plan a reality?
I think almost like there was a couple things when I talked to Santi, I misstepped. I said too much about him being a threat and like just didn't really play that conversation well, and didn't really include him in numbers when I should have ultimately, and included Josh when I shouldn't have, which I said in like my confessional leaving, like this was the mistake. Like I shouldn't have trusted Josh. And I think that was kind of the difference, because I think it still would have been a lot for Doug to convince Angie. And I think I remember being like, well, I have five, thinking it was Josh and not thinking it was Santi, which again, wrong. But like, I knew like where I'd messed up was like not like talking to Angie prior to then. I think the final piece would have been Angie, and to some extent Santi.
Well, Amanda, it was unfortunate to see you leave. I think a lot of people were like, Amanda sees what's going on. She knows she has to get out Doug. She knows she has to get out Santi and Sadie, but no one else wants to make these moves with her. I guess looking back, you've kind of expressed a few of these, but what is like the one thing you wish you could have changed if you could do it all over again?
Honestly, I wish I would have taken out Santi when I had the opportunity. I mean, that's where I actually had control, and I didn't utilize it. So
hindsight's 2020.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other questions for Amanda?
She kind of already answered a lot of the questions that I had written down.
We had a long interview. We have a lot of questions for Amanda. Well, Amanda, I appreciate it so much for you coming on. I know the season has been up and downs, but I personally have loved you as a character only because I think you bring a lot of fun. I think you bring a lot of good strategy. I think you came into the game probably the biggest fan. And it's always a pleasure to have someone who knows this game very well come in, be excited, and just see, oh, this is so hard. Oh, this is so hard.
Yeah, I definitely appreciated. Like from day one, you could tell like you were there to play. You came in and you were going to play hard, and I appreciated that very much.
Thank you. Yeah. It was an experience that like just definitely made college unique, and like is something that like I learned a lot from and grew a lot from, as I've said, but also just like made a lot of friends, and like I'm really, really thankful for that too. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, thank you so much, Amanda. We will see you at the finale night.
Yeah.
Whoa, who's gonna win? All right. Have a good night.
Bye.
That was Amanda. What a queen. It is unfortunate that she is out, but now we're going to talk about the episode and all of our opinions. Let's get our first thoughts about it.
Yes.
Okay. I am as mad at Tim as he is at himself about being like finding the clue again at the challenge and not even trying to go for it. Like he had so much. I feel like it's bad that he like he could have done it more subtly. I feel if he would have gotten more answers correct, of like the couple times just been like, oh, this is my route after I like go grab a name. I come all the way over here. This is just what I do. It's not weird. And then like grab it on like the third or fourth time. Like I think that would have been clever. But the fact that he just like didn't even try. Sometimes you just gotta go for it, man. Like the idol's right there. You know exactly where it is, and you're not grabbing it. And you give Doug the opportunity.
I know. I wrote that down too. I was like, really? You're gonna like show Doug, and then you're gonna chicken out in even getting it. Whatever.
Yeah, and if that Superlative challenge was very telling with everybody, on the bottom, on the top, I feel like it was just too obvious for them not to do anything about it right after.
That challenge, we'll get into it, but like I asked every single person, what do you think this challenge means? Do you think there's anything relevancy to it? And a lot of people were like, no. It's like, what do you mean no? It's literally a challenge where you're saying who's good and then ripping their names off. And it's like, people were like, I'm so sorry. Oh, can I have your permission? It's like,
that made me laugh out loud, Anders, when you were like, oh, well, yeah, you'd have to ask his permission.
Honestly, Anders, this is so similar to our host versus players superlatives towards the end, where like it did just come down to those few people who were just being nice to each other.
That annoyed me also. I'm like, everyone's gonna hate us. I hate us. There's nothing more annoying than like being out early and then watching people like laugh and have fun. Like Angie, I know, was like, ha ha ha. Wow.
Yeah, it's like San Juan del Sur, like where they all just gave that challenge to, to Missy or whatever. Like that's exactly what it was. They were like, ha, we're in control. You guys aren't. Like, yeah, go ahead. Sadie, win it. Who cares?
Basically, she wanted to win. They gave her the win.
Yeah.
So, last week, Morgan is out. Unfortunately, Fallen Queen. And we see Amanda being like, okay, great. Now I have a target on my back. How about we don't do that? And then Sadie's like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
I really do think, though, if Sadie hadn't won immunity, that Amanda would have actually gained traction and been able to build an anti-Sadie coalition.
Fully.
Yeah, no, some people were really considering. I think, and also Amanda had the conversation with Sadie, which is kind of one of my favorite scenes. And she was telling her like, I can work with you, and then right after her confession, she's like, I'm going to definitely 100 flip on you. I was like, what? And I think that shows, how Amanda was willing to play, and she was scrapping there. She knew she was a target.
Mm-hmm.
But if Sadie definitely did not have that immunity, maybe she had a chance.
I'm going to be honest. I don't see an out for Amanda either way. Mm-hmm. I think were Sadie an option, she would need Doug, which she wasn't going to get. And then she wasn't going to get Josh, because Josh feels like he's closest with Sadie too. So she wasn't going to get like him or Angie. She was like, what? She was going to have her, Tim, maybe Santi, but probably not, because what's he going to do without Doug? And then like probably Dane. But at that point, that's just not enough. And then I think the key piece that she needed to make this Delarum move happen was Sadie, because the people who are close to Sadie didn't want to upset her. And so that clearly wasn't going to happen either. So I genuinely think that the second Amanda didn't win immunity, like she was kind of dead in the water. Unfortunately, I don't think that there was much she could have done.
I mean, I think she's right. It all hinged on Angie. Honestly, like, I think had Sadie not won immunity, I think they still would have probably gone for, like, Abby or Delarum, only because they were like, but what if she has an idol or some garbage? I don't know. Doug would have been like, no, and they'd be like, okay. But I think it really did come down to, like, Angie has just lost all of her allies. And the only one who's really talking to her is, like, Tim and then a little bit of Doug and Santi. But even then, like, we heard a little bit of their conversation. Doug's not really saying, vote this way, this is what I want. He's, like, feeling her out. And she's like, I'm not going to put my neck out for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like she had no reason to vote Delarum off besides, like, I get to stick with Amanda, but, like, I've already been burned there.
Exactly. That's another thing that really upset me was, like, everybody voting Angie for, like, least deserving to be here. Like, you put her on the bottom and then you tell her she doesn't belong here? Like, that is bullshit. That was so stupid. That was.
And she won immunity the one right before. Like, what do you mean she's the least deserving? Come on.
That was so frustrating.
I agree.
Least deserving. She'll never win. I think she also got least likely to win. Or no,
Yeah,
hold on.
she did. No, wait, who got that one?
Hold on. I'm about to pull it
I
up.
wrote it all down.
I'm gonna pull
Angie and Dane tied for that one.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Which is so funny. 0% chance of winning this game. Yeah, I have. Okay, so the blah 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 blah. Well, I think it's so funny too because it's like, do they really have 0% chance of winning this game? Because they're both still in it.
How did they have less of a chance than Delarum and Abby?
That's right. That's what I'd like to
That
know.
doesn't make sense.
Because they're the most trustworthy.
I guess so. I guess.
Yeah, well, if nobody talks, then yeah, you can be pretty trustworthy.
Hey,
I feel
she'll
like
never say anything.
And I feel like as the season's going on, I feel like Dane is just fading to the background. I'm like, where's Dane? You know?
Yeah. I mean, we did see a little bit more of Dane this episode. At first, you know, because he was in the beginning, and then it was like, oh, Dane's going to make a breakout. But then it was like, there can only be one, Dane or Josh. And I feel like
there can only be one Dane or Josh. That's true. You can only have so many of them. Here's a question. So we see that Josh wins the dark horse. Do we think that Josh is the dark horse of this competition? Do we think, no.
No, I think this season just doesn't have a lot of dark horses. So, like, who's most likely to be a dark horse? You're like, okay, you got to give it to Josh.
Doug, Sadie, or Santi, you're trash.
Yeah, only 2 tiers here, you know? Yeah.
I did love Josh saying, though, well, I guess I'm the dark horse, but I want to be the lead horse.
But at the right time, he said.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just so, like, not counting on Josh to do anything ever.
Yeah, you see in this confessional, he was like, there's like, oh, there's a 4, and then he's like, oh, and then there's me, and he's like, I'm okay with that.
Exactly.
Like, complacency is just like, what? It's mind-boggling.
That's the second time he's done that too. It's like he's like, I see that I'm not in power, and that's fine. I'm waiting to make my move. Like, you can only wait for so long until you can't make a move anymore, buddy. Like, Amanda just presented you with a move to make. Granted, the move was Delarum, so I guess it's not like super flashy, but like, even so.
It's so funny because he says, because there's a blindside, it's not going to be me. Well, girl, who's going to blindside them? Not you, apparently. Like, who's blindsiding these top 4 people? There's only 10 of you. What are you talking about? It's very frustrating to watch Josh make these accurate observations and then go, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
He said, I'm here to report the news, not act upon it.
True journalist right there.
He's a journalist.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
All right, let's see. What are the other superlatives? So the most likely to win was Doug, obviously. Sadie was a close second. Accurate, not accurate? How do we feel about that?
Yeah.
Accurate. Was Santi upset that he wasn't the one voted for that?
I think he's fine. I think Santi said it a couple times. His whole thing right now is to lay low. He's not trying to be.
Yeah.
his name is still coming up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That dynamic is so. Oh, go ahead, Swally.
No, I was just going to say, I think probably Tim would be a person that would probably be a little bit more upset about not seeing his name, because he truly believes, in the last episode we saw, like, I'm going to call it here. This is a merge. I'm winning this game. So
That's true.
Naomi's really killing me right now with these comments. And then also, this is a great one. Josh wanting to beat Micah with.
Oh my god.
Okay. I'm sorry. There's never been like a time to really express Josh's story. So he's Micah's roommate.
Yeah.
In case that wasn't clear from the bar mitzvah slideshow of pictures, they live together. Yeah, he saw Micah play and he's like, I want to play and I want to do better than Micah. And I'm like, okay, bet. I mean, that's very hard to do. Micah's played twice and done very well both times, but work, bitch, do it. But let's see, the other ones. Who least deserves to be here is Angie. Then who would you most likely to introduce to your parents? Who do you guys think would be the answer?
Santi?
Yeah, I would say Santi. Or Doug. No, Doug.
Mom, who do you most want to meet? Like, I can answer this one now.
I don't know.
I want to say Santi.
Tim, be honest.
Oh, maybe Tim.
I think it could. Maybe.
What's
What's the answer?
Kelly, who is it?
I'm not good.
You're the parent here.
All right,
I
well,
forgot.
Erin, I guess whoever you want to bring home is fine with me.
The answer was Doug.
Aw,
Wow.
that's a good answer.
Let's see. Who do you least want to talk to after this game ends? It's a tied one. Want to guess the two people?
Is it Delarum and Abby?
One of them.
Abby and Amanda.
If it's Angie, I'm gonna leave.
It's Angie and Abby.
Oh my god.
Unacceptable.
He said, we hate Angie.
This is unacceptable.
Why?
He's not on the list. So who is most likely to stab you in the back, Amanda? Dark horse is Josh. Second place for that was Doug, which
Most
girl,
likely-
how is he the dark horse?
He's most likely to win and the dark horse.
Yeah, that would be insane.
Duality.
Who mistakenly thinks they were in control? Amanda. I don't think she thought she was in control at all.
No. Maybe before Morgan's whole tribal.
Let's see. Who is the most gullible? Who do we think the tribe said was the most gullible?
Josh.
Okay.
Dane.
Tim.
Is it? Delarum.
Delarum.
Yeah.
Okay.
With Angie as a close second.
Did they just vote for Angie for all the bad
He
ones?
said this is a negative one. Angie.
Angie.
Let's see. Did anyone vote for her for most attractive? No. It was Santi, Delarum, Abby, and Josh.
I mean,
To each their own.
Santi's gorgeous. Well,
Look,
Sure.
Josh admits it. He would pick Santi.
yes. Why wouldn't you? I get
I mean, Josh even says duh.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll expose the votes. Which, by the way, so 2016, last week was Halloween. This week is not the election. Next week is, because it was on like the 8th. Which is great. You can't see it, but you can feel the real depressing.
I was
the real
going to say that's
depression
going to be
energy.
so depressing.
Oh, it was great. We had a challenge the day before and a tribal the day after, and everyone was thrilled. November 9th was a really good day for everyone.
Oh man.
Anyways, so touchy subjects is, I think, I've had this discussion. It's not a good immunity challenge when it's like you're ripping off names because then the majority just wins.
Yes.
But it's a great challenge to identify who is clearly on the top, and they didn't want to do that. But I do want to talk a little bit about these players and sort of where we think, how they played this episode, where we think their trajectory is. So Tim finds his second idol clue, does not. He is very close with Amanda, doesn't want to get rid of her, votes with her, loses her. What is Tim doing? Why isn't he doing anything? He hears from Doug about this idol that Doug has been lying to him about, and says, "Whatever you want, Doug."
Hears that Doug has been lying to him about this idol, sees that Doug lied to him about being the only one he's told about the idol, and yet maintains that Doug and Santi are his closest relationships. I want to root for Tim so badly. I really do. But he's making it so hard.
It's sort of a theme, though, for a lot of people this season, where they're just like, I mean, we already talked about Josh. He's like, I can see all this, but it's fine. You know, I mean, there a lot of people are the dog in the, you know, meme where there's the fires, and it's like, it's all fine. Because this is also with Amanda, when she was talking to Josh, and she says to Josh that I really trust you, and he's like, awesome. It totally reminded me of like when, you know, you're the first person to say I love you, and they say that's cool. It's never happened to me or anything, but
It's happened to all of us. We can all admit it.
Yeah, no, and I agree with Erin about Tim's. And also Tim, you see him, he's on point about, he understands everything that's happening. He sees that he's up against, you know, big threats. But, you know, you see him struggling, trying to act on what he knows. For example, even when he sees Josh take down his name, and he wants to, you know, confront him about it and confront some of the relationship that he has. You see him, he's struggling. Although he knows he can play the game, he's, you know, kind of hesitating about being aggressive. And I think a little bit more aggression, and I'm sure he, you know, would have made a big move by now.
You make a great point. At Tribal, he's like, Josh, why'd you put down my name? He's like, I don't know. And then Tim's like, oh, all right, I'm just joking. It's like, okay,
Comedian. Yeah.
But no, I think it's actually funny that Josh being like, awesome, is very reminiscent of like when Amanda was like, yeah, are you and Santi close? And Tim goes, why would that matter? I don't know. It's like, this is not a comforting thing to hear, Tim. All you're doing is saying, ignore it. It's not that big of a deal. Why should you care?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard in the moment to see this red flag of a response, but yeah, if I'm telling you I trust you and your response isn't I also trust you, then I should be like, actually, I have to go right now.
Yeah.
So Tim is doing nothing, or he's trying and then giving up.
I think he's actively working against his own best interests. I think that's what Tim's doing.
He's playing a game for him and Doug.
yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Josh, since we talked a little bit about him. So Josh has begun to grow a relationship with Sadie. He's like, I do want to take out these threats, but also I don't want to do anything about it. I'm not on the top, but it's okay. So what's going on with Josh? Is he gonna? Oh, here's Tim, comedic relief. You are funny. I'll give you that, intentionally or not. What do we think about Josh? Where is he going? What's happening?
Well,
will he beat Micah?
That's what I was gonna say. Hopefully, he's beating Micah. Like, hopefully, that's his trajectory, I guess.
Yeah, no, if that's his threshold, I don't know. Maybe he might. The thing about also Josh is he's one of the people here in that he has a lot of one-way relationships that he's not understanding. And you know, you see people like Amanda come to him, and then he goes back to like 3 people, and then this will happen and so forth. So I think, you know, in that moment, in that moment of the game, he's, you know, being willing to be accepted by, you know, the people that have the power, and not really, you know, rocking the boat, as he said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he thinks that he understands the dynamics, but if he truly understood the dynamics, thanks, I just got it today. If he truly understood the dynamics, he would like be trying to do something about it, I feel. And so I think he's comfortable, like he's been the whole game. I think Josh just truly wants to ride it out. He's always felt as though he's in a power position. Maybe not the power position, but some sort of power position. Well, that's never been true. Like, not once. So if he's continued to have this perception of himself in a position of power, why would he ever change anything that he's doing?
Do you think anybody actually wants to go into a game saying, you know what? I'm going to be the GOAT. I'm going to make it to the end. I'm not going to win, but I'm totally going to be at the end just so I can say I was at the end.
No,
Yeah, Delarum and Abby.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. It's a joke. But also, no, but it's so funny because Josh, that's so funny. That's such a good observation. Yes, Josh has been wrong this entire time. Even when he's somewhat aware, still wrong. So confident. For what? For why?
I think Tim is purposefully comedic relief and Josh is accidentally comedic relief. Because you just watch Josh do whatever he's doing and you're like, buddy,
you see these moments of like Josh is getting it. Like he makes this move against Amanda to make him more solid with Sadie.
Yeah.
But then he doesn't actively do anything to hurt her relationship with Doug and advance himself further because he doesn't want to make a move. It's like you can't not do anything and still win this game.
Right.
Mhm.
That's how you get voted out.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know what Josh is doing. Josh doesn't know what Josh is doing.
No, he doesn't. He's winning. He's winning. He's the dark horse.
Yeah. Gonna be winning.
Okay, let's go to our no chance at winning. Dane, who started out the game not trusting Eric, working with him, getting rid of him, and then wanted to get at Amanda, but now he's working with her. Dane's here still. That's about as much as you can say of what's been happening with Dane.
Mhm.
What do we think? Like, he's been referenced in relationship to Tim and Amanda. Thank you, the Dane of my existence. So
Baby, you're killing it today.
we're still on the Dane train, but I gotta wonder, why is it stopped at the station? Where is he going next?
Well, like I said, it totally depends on the Josh's trajectory, right? I feel like there's a Highlander situation going
When
on.
one supreme rises, the other must die.
Exactly.
So it's all about the relevancy. As Josh becomes more relevant, Dane becomes irrelevant. So
Exactly.
once Josh becomes less relevant, Dane will become, all right, good to know.
I've never seen them both in the same place.
I also haven't.
Yeah. They're both like an extension of the core alliance, and like but they never see each other. You know.
They don't. They have no they have no relationship.
I think all Dane has done is just put himself in a terrible position by attaching, like, I don't think he did this necessarily on purpose, but now he is attached to this Tim and Amanda, who are now on the bottom. And like,
Is this a Harry Potter thing?
it is.
Oh, never mind. Get it off my screen.
Okay, Mike.
Oh, get over it.
No, it's just like he's been attached to this Tim and Amanda situation. Tim is much more well established with those that are in power than Dane is. So all Dane is doing is making himself the next easy vote, and he doesn't know it. Just,
Yeah, even throughout the game, you know, his rationale has changed so frequently. Like, you know, he's so close with Eric, then he's against Eric, then even with Amanda, it's left and right. So even if he's walking this narrow path, it's like even, you know, he's working against himself as well.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Angie has no allies.
My queen.
She is in any situation where they can eliminate each other, going to be the first one. She's survived another round because she was basically like, you either vote with majority or you're out. What do we think about her long-term prospects? Are the easy votes done, or is she the person to go? Like, what is there keeping Angie around?
Dane, I think, is the next technically easy vote. I genuinely feel like Santi's going to try to keep Angie around. If nothing else, but because there's clearly soulmates. I just need their relationship story arc to just like come to a satisfying conclusion, because it's been such an actual relationship that we're seeing them go through. Like,
He gets on his knees, open up a box, and it's an idol.
It was. No, they did. They went through a breakup. They went through like a reconnection now, and I feel like Santi's just gonna do what he can to keep Angie around.
He's
And
a
I feel
simp.
like
He's simping for Angie.
he is. He's simping for Angie. I get it. Like, same. But I feel like Santi might be Angie's saving grace here. That, or she's going to be the thing that fractures Santi and Doug.
Well, because Tim has already said too that, you know, Angie's there ready to just, you know, up for grabs. So, Tim and Josh both actually see her as somebody that they can possibly get on their side because she has no one else. So if they're already seeing that, others are going to see that. I feel like Angie has the game sense to be able to maneuver herself into a better position.
I can't wait for Angie to flirt with Doug, pissing off Santi and ruining that relationship, saying, I'm getting rid of Doug. How dare he?
Well, that's Jasmine, too. Isn't that a thing?
Yeah, she and Jasmine, they're now fighting over Doug's affections. All right, so that's Angie and Dane. Let's go to Delarum and Abby. We could separate it, but I don't think we need to. There hasn't been a lot of content because they are talking to Sadie. They do what Sadie wants, and I think Amanda's absolutely right in that read. Sadie will take them to the end and she'll win. There's no other reason for you to work with Sadie. She will never take you over them, and they will never take anyone else over Sadie or each other.
Yeah, no, I feel like although go ahead.
It's such a strong alliance. We don't need content. They just are that strong. They also don't film themselves. What do you want from me?
Yeah, I feel like it's a lot of, even if they had content, it's gonna be a lot of just conversation, just a lot of fun conversation.
Nothing.
Probably of everything but Survivor, but also I feel like they're a lot of fun. So I don't mind watching, Della and Abby conversation.
Oh, me too, Naomi. Yeah, I don't know. I'm getting a lot throughout this episode with especially all of Amanda's confessionals about this. I was getting a lot of like Penner's speech from Philippines, his jury speech, where he was like, 2 of you are the oxen and 1 of you is standing in the chariot while the other 2 are corralling you to victory. And I feel like that's a lot of the vibes of this alliance, where Sadie is just kind of letting Delarum and Abby go forward, and bring her to the end. And she's like, these are my sheep. They're gonna do what I want. Somebody give me another animal I can compare them to. I don't know. They've got
Goats?
you guys, goats? Yeah, another one. Exactly. So I don't know. I don't think that I had understood the closeness of this alliance before this episode. But it definitely makes sense, especially for Sadie being as smart as she is. Lemming's also a good one. I apologize to Delarum and Abby, but
they know what they did.
They know what they did.
Well, I think that Amanda calling it out, though, is actually going to really wake up Doug, right? I mean, he's the one that's going to be threatened by that the most. So, and if Doug has you in his crosshairs, you're not long for the game.
Naomi wants to apologize specifically to Josh because of something she once said. I'll proclaim it. Nobody. I'm kidding. Yeah, I think it's Delarum and Abby are definitely playing we aren't really playing the game. They're playing a Cassie game, or I'm not really doing too much. I'm not putting in too much effort, but I'm in a majority alliance. I don't have to do too much, which work. You're both in the final 9. Can't fault you for that. People have done way more and gone out way earlier. They'd never make the Jasmine mistake of talking to too many people. All right, let's talk about the big players, starting with the biggest of them all, Santi. I was trying to make sure there wasn't someone else I was forgetting, and if I could put them in this place. There isn't. I've named 5 people. Santi. So forget what I was saying. Just talk about him.
He's taking a kind of a low-key approach right now. That's what he's saying. So, we'll see if he's shutting off a lot of targets and maybe he survives. But yeah, Santi's doing well.
What time is it, Shelley? Tell us on your clock.
Oh, sorry.
It's 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the Santi and Doug dynamic is one of my favorites because it really is just the hero and the villain is what's going on, and that's exactly what it is. You see it in every conversation that they have, and it's so interesting to kind of see, especially Santi trying to taking this back seat and kind of letting the villain, the puppet master, pull all the strings, where Santi is kind of building these genuine connections on the back end. Whether it's with Tim, whether it's with Angie, anybody like that. But I feel like he is kind of being a little more tunnel visioned than he should be. Like at this point, he should be Josh's closest ally, not Sadie. That's how things should be right now. But he's taken, I think, too far of a step back. And I think he will really need to kind of pick it up, especially considering he's playing this he's like this loyal guy. He's like, Doug, I could never turn on him. I'm going to take him to Final 2. He is my roommate. He is my friend. We're going to the end together. So what he needs to do is figure out how to utilize his relationships that he's build those up a little more, and take out all of the ones that Doug's built and do it before Doug does. But unfortunately, I don't see that happening.
I did love your comparison with the, hero and villain sort of thing, because I wrote down that they were kind of good cop, bad cop. And I absolutely loved when Doug was like, or Santi is like, Doug, I think you're really underestimating people. And Doug
no.
Doug really said, no, everyone's stupid.
He did. And then he goes, but I'm not a villain.
Right. He's also not necessarily wrong.
Well, I mean, some people, but we see people are seeing what the dynamic is.
So what are they doing?
No,
you're both right. Okay. Naomi has a great thing. Where is it? Each episode, I'm like, this movie is going to have fantastic memories. And you know what? It happens. I think also what we do see is every interaction that Santi's having, and Morgan said it last week, where it's he texted me saying you're going home, and he says, I'm not going to be making a big move. I want to stay loyal. I'm going to stay. He's being completely transparent about what he's doing. Meanwhile, Doug is still maybe you get enough votes, but I'm still not going to do it because I know you won't have votes. Oopsie, I'm not your ally. I think that's a really good comparison, the hero and villain, because they are just so different in their approach to this.
Yeah. And I think it's going to be, I would love to see a Doug Santi Final 2, just to see what the jury respects more. Because that really does, a game like that, where you've played it side by side, really does come down to the jury based on how you let them go. And I think that would be so interesting to see.
Let's talk about the other roommate, Doug. We didn't hear too much from him for 21 minutes, 21 glorious minutes. I'm sorry to say to everyone, besides any episodes he might not be in for whatever reasons, probably the longest you'll go in an episode without a Doug confessional. So enjoy that, the 21 minutes of other people playing, because now it's Doug time. So Doug, I don't know how much we need to go into how much he's playing, but dude has 2 idols. He got to the final 4 of this challenge, and everyone's still Doug, please vote with me. Oh, please, Doug. I'll give you all my information. Here's my idol clue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I will say, this is the first time that Doug didn't get what he wanted at the vote. He did not want Amanda to go home. That was not the best move for him. He could have used Amanda down the road. So I think, I will say, I'm not necessarily saying his power, his control is slipping, because I think
over.
Because I think it was a cost analysis kind of thing where, the effort it would have taken to save Amanda would have destroyed too many relationships than just letting her go. So I think he did make the right move, but it's not what he wanted to happen. It wasn't him pulling the strings behind this move. It was Sadie. So I think it's a little bit more, it plays a little bit more into the dynamics going forward, where it's not just Doug. Maybe it is Doug, Tim, Sadie, and Santi.
Boy.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the same thing Erin said. I said this was the first time where Doug actually wanted Amanda to stay, but he let Sadie have it this time around.
Mm-hmm.
And I think last episode he was talking about I can't be submissive, but I think this time he's like, you know what, the effort is too much, and he let Amanda walk.
But I wonder how much that had to do with him being identified in the superlatives as most likely to win. Like he probably figured I better take a step back from this one because I don't want people seeing me with that kind of a big target. Let Sadie take the reins on this one. And as everything else is coming out on Sadie, that makes her target even bigger. And I think it definitely clues Doug into like Sadie's going to be one of the soonest to go.
I mean, Doug has said it before that he thinks he can beat nearly everyone except for Sadie. She's probably his biggest hurdle at the very end. And she has identified him as the biggest threat to her win, which is so funny because they're still doing so much to protect each other.
I mean, I think they have to. Like, both of them they've built this web through one another. Like, there are people that Doug wouldn't have without Sadie. And there are people Sadie wouldn't have without Doug. So they have created this, they've done this to themselves. Where, like, yes, they are rivals in a way, but they also need each other.
I almost disagree with that. I don't know if that's necessarily true. Like, I think who would Delarum and Sadie or Delarum and Abby go to if not Doug?
Josh, I don't know.
You're right, Josh.
Abby's never going to Josh. Aaron,
No, you're right. You got me there.
I think you are right. If Doug's taken out by Sadie, Tim, Santi, Dane, they're all smart enough to. No, okay, that's not. They're all game aware enough to be like, okay, I don't know if I trust Sadie. Although Doug being taken out with 2 idols would be so funny. Bye-bye. Let's talk about Sadie.
I feel like Sadie actually took a hit this episode because I think that she became rather visible to Doug, and that's a really bad thing.
I mean, Amanda was vocally against Sadie, and Sadie has been vocally against Amanda since the beginning.
And it wasn't just Amanda calling her out necessarily. It was also Sadie pushing to get Amanda against what, Doug would have necessarily wanted. Like we were already talking about, there might have been reasons for Doug to let Amanda go, but because Sadie was pushing on it so hard as well, I feel like she hurt herself.
Yeah, no, and she was pushing on it from 2 episodes ago. So this is, maybe Amanda wasn't necessarily the most easiest vote. Angie survived, right? Dane's still here, so this is, you can start seeing Sadie's influence over people, and Amanda has pointed out how she has her own troops. And there may be a tug between Doug and Sadie, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know that Sadie necessarily, I don't know that her position changed. Like, it's not like she was pushing for this Amanda vote, like it was a contentious thing. It just became the easy vote because she was the most vocal. She was the most vocal about it, I think. Like, it was still, she was still called an easy vote. This is what was going to happen. So I don't know that you can attribute it to, yes, being what Sadie wanted, but I don't necessarily think that it hurts her position. And, she was not voted most likely to win. Doug was. So just, whether, maybe this puts them at equal level, which, they likely should be. But overall, prior to this week, at the challenge, Doug was still seen as a higher threat level than Sadie was. So I don't think that this has necessarily put her in any worse position. I think that she still is in a great position. I think she does have her 2 goats, and I think that so long as she picks up, so long as she maintains Josh and Angie, I think she's got this thing set.
Way to defend your winner's pick.
Yeah. Erin really said, Sadie is my winner's pick, so here's how she's going to win.
Yeah.
You'd be the best person for Sadie on jury. I'll say that. Because right now it's Morgan and Amanda. I don't think either of them are gonna be huge Sadie fans. I'll be honest. Okay, so Amanda's gone. Next week, where do we think the target lies? Do we think it's the Dane train coming to a stop, or do we think it's going to be a blind side for the first time this merge?
I don't know. I think it's Dane. I think it's very much the Chikasha mentality of, being united. And I think I think Dane might be the last easy vote. And then things will have to get like a little more contentious. But I don't know. It'll depend, because I think that only plays well to Sadie's side of things and not necessarily to Doug's side of things. So we'll see whether he lets her have another one. Otherwise, I think that I think it might just be Dane.
Tim's not going to want Dane to go.
Tim didn't want Amanda to go.
I know, but he also I think he did this whole cost benefit analysis as well. But I think that Dane he would see Dane as more of a benefit.
Why?
Because he's Tim. I don't know. I just think that's what he thinks.
Tim will go, you can't get rid of Dane. And Doug goes, but I want to. And then Tim goes, fine.
I don't know. I'm just saying. I think that Dane has some people in his corner.
Okay.
People.
Okay.
Not many people. I mean, if he did the cost analysis thing, he let Amanda walk. I feel like losing Amanda was a big hit for Tim. And yeah, so I think that was definitely a trusted relationship that Tim lost, and he was the one that voted with Amanda. So maybe that's putting his relationship out in open. And I feel like he's managing his relationship well, just like Santi is.
Yeah, I think Tim is. If Tim wants to pull himself together and say, I'm not going to move from this position, come to me rather than me coming to you, maybe he can get something done. But it requires him to not fold to someone else's demands. Because that's the thing, too. If you put enough pressure on Doug, he will do what you want. He'll do whatever it takes to remain in a good position. We've seen it before. It just requires Tim to not chicken out. All right, winner's pick. Erin, obviously you're sticking with Sadie. I don't think you could express your opinion about her and not want to keep it.
That's correct. Yeah, I am absolutely full in with Sadie.
Shelley, who is your winner pick from a few weeks ago?
Well, it was Tim, and I was told that I'm not allowed to change it, so...
Oh, okay. Just because George feels that way doesn't mean you can...
Yeah, that guy sucks!
You want to stick with Tim?
Yeah, I may as well.
All right, good. Yeah, you never know. He could be the winner. Swale, who's your winner pick?
Do I get to have a winner pick?
Fine. You don't get a winner pick. He was crew, so
Oh.
that's fine.
My
you
winner
can
pick
always
is
lie,
Anders.
Swale. I know, but you can lie.
Anders.
I'm gonna win the season finally. Every week I call out Doug, and I'm aware of it, but I do nothing about it. I could have rigged it. I should. You know what? I should have just opened my box of Doug votes and put them in. That way he could win. Well, anyways, any final thoughts about this episode? Anything we missed? Naomi left this, which is a very funny moment where Sadie says to Doug, I'm the only one you've told, right? And Tim sees it, and Tim is just like, I can't believe he lied to me again. Anyways, I'm going to work with him still.
And then the only other thing that I noticed was Tim right at the beginning definitely having his priorities like, guys, broomball this Thursday.
Broomball's great, though. Full support on that.
Oh, this is actually a thing I wanted to ask specifically Erin and Shelley about. All right, Amanda goes home. She is crying. I don't know if you felt anything. I did, but opinions on Amanda. I know early on it's like she said the thing, and you were like, have your opinions changed? Has the arc of Amanda come to a complete full circle?
Yeah, I guess.
You can say no.
Very
You can
sure.
say, I'm glad she's gone.
I think I enjoyed watching Amanda's strategic growth. I think I could see her mind working, but I still don't think that she did a single good thing for herself.
Erin, if there is anything Erin hates, it's people crying about this game. Boo hoo, man up. So what? You got bullied on a group chat for 3 months. Big deal. We've all been given death threats every episode. Okay. I'm sorry your dream was shattered. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna say I came around on Amanda, but I don't have as much venom towards her now at the end.
No, I definitely appreciated that. Like I told her earlier, that she was there to play, and she, she saw things how they were, and I appreciate anybody who puts that, all that effort into the game. She definitely cared about it, and it's sad to see somebody that cares about the game go home.
Swale.
Can you repeat the question? I had somebody distract me.
Amanda, the arc of Amanda.
Oh.
Did you come full circle, or were you always a standa?
Okay, well, for me, it has. Also, I became friends with Amanda, so it's like, so I kind of understand the way she thinks. Yeah, I became one of the guy friends. How about that, right? So the thing about Amanda, one thing we didn't get to ask was her contentious relationship with Sadie from the beginning. So I think, like, I think that kind of set off, what eventually became her downfall, where they couldn't work together, and even that conversation. But I think it came to just a Sadie win over Amanda, and it did come full circle in a sense, somewhat.
So you've been an Amanda fan, and you stayed an Amanda fan.
Yes.
And it's unfortunate to see her go. Is this some sort of joke about putting $1 in the jar for puns? Because I'm not doing that. I'm not made of money. I'm not going to stop this. Well, Amanda is gone, for better or for worse. And one of the people who acknowledges Doug's threat, gone again.
Mm-hmm.
Who will say it next week that Doug is a threat and then unceremoniously be voted out 8 to whatever? Find out. So any other final thoughts, or no, we're good?
I'm good.
Speak now. Who's going to make the Tim line?
I'm looking forward to next week. I'm
All right,
hoping
well,
we can get in some of those cracks.
Looking for election week, yep.
Woo! Election week 2016, the best week of the year. Let me tell you. Erin, do you have anything you want to plug?
I don't think so. Anybody offering jobs?
She helped run a very successful campaign. She was one of the people who brought in those boxes of fake Democrat votes.
I did that.
Shelley, do you have anything that you want to plug?
I don't think so.
Go Saints, or whoever you were talking about earlier. I don't know. I don't want sports. Swally, do you have anything you want to plug?
Just watch a lot of Survivor Maryland. I've been watching Survivor UVA, a bunch of other Survivors. I watched Survivor Michigan, great season. So
you don't have to lie to them right now. And if you want to watch Swally on the UVA live show, you can check that out. Survivor UVA.
Also, if you want to go watch season 6 as well, if you have not.
Oh yes, of course. Survivor Maryland, New Beginnings. Swally's the star of it. He really is.
That's true. Yeah.
Everyone really likes him on the season.
I don't know why, but yeah.
Me either. Watch as another pair of roommates do way worse. Swally really showed, even if you have roommates in the game, you can still fail.
Yep.
And then Survivor Maryland episode 11 coming out next week, where I'll be in Maryland. What's going on? Maybe I'll be at the campus. I won't. It'll be at 9:00 at night. I'm not insane. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful night, and stay in Angie. All right, bye.